Hi friends, I am Bharat Makija, and this would be my first video on YouTube. And here I would like to speak on SIPs and mutual funds. Now, why did I choose this particular topic in my first video is because I know many of my friends and colleagues who are not aware of many investment plans which are there in the market, and many of them lose out on the opportunities not investing in such instruments. So mostly people of the IT background and other background who are not connected to finance background. So I'm mainly talking about them here. Yes, you would be aware of the term called SIPs. It's systematic investment plan. This kind of a scheme is there in the mutual fund, which is very similar to recurring deposit, where certain amount of money has to be deposited in that particular scheme every month at a particular date. Now, how do we start that scheme of SIP? In recurring deposit, we go to a bank and fill up details, and they would do a ECS every month. The amount is automatically deducted from the bank account in that recurring deposit account every month at a particular date. In the same way, we do have brokers online like CAMS or Carvi. They have the schemes with them, and you can register in that. They will ask you to fill up the KYC, that is Know Your Customer form, and it doesn't involve much of a paperwork there. You will have to fill up the details online, and after doing that, you can set up a monthly SIP scheme in any of the mutual fund schemes available with them. And then there are a lot of variants in that. Now, which variant you select will depend on your goal. I mean, if your goal is you need that money 10 years after today for a certain vehicle you want to buy, or 15 years from today where you want to buy a house, or for your children's education, or for your child's marriage, there are many goals in long term, right? So in that case, depending on the goal, if your goal is like say 10 years, you can select a variant where you can invest in the large cap stocks. Large cap stocks are those who have huge market capitalizations, and the downside risk of the stocks going down is very less. In those stocks, you will not be at a risk of losing your capital to a great extent. I would not say that you are risk free, but you would have a lesser downside risk. And you also have mid cap mutual funds where the market capitalizations are slightly less than the large cap. Like say for example, the first 100 companies according to their market capitalization are called as large cap stocks, and then from 101st position to the 250th position are in the mid cap slot, and then 250 plus are in the small cap slot. Now the small cap mutual funds are too risky. You need to have a very long term horizon, and your risk appetite should be high, because at some point of time when the market is at their low, you would see that your capital can be eroded to say an extent of 40 to 50% in small caps. So I'm not discouraging, but you should have a higher risk appetite and a very long term horizon to invest in small cap funds. You can also earn more returns in small caps, but again, your risk appetite should be very high. People who are less than 25 or less than 30 can take the risk of investing in small cap funds for a long term horizon to earn a handsome return. But as a starter, you can start off with large cap stocks. You can invest in large cap mutual funds. We also have variants called as hybrid mutual funds, where certain percentage is invested in equity and certain percentage is invested in debt. Now the percentage also, we have equity aggressive hybrid fund where 65% of the amount is invested in equities and 35% is invested in debt funds. When I say debt funds, these are mostly the government bonds and the companies which have a good credit rating, which have good balance sheets, and they can repay the money back. So the money is invested in those kind of companies and those kind of government bonds. So we also have a debt aggressive hybrid fund where 65% of amount is invested in debts and 35 is invested in equity. Now when I say 65-35, that is the average. It could slightly differ also. So depends on your age. If you are at a younger age, I would suggest you to go for a equity aggressive hybrid mutual fund. And if we are at a middle age where we can't afford to have more risk, we can go for a debt aggressive hybrid fund. So now we have certain misconceptions here. Certain people have a perception that mutual funds are risky. They are subject to market risks and your funds can be wiped out. Yes, it is true to a certain extent. It is not that the amount will be completely wiped off, because mutual funds are again monitored by SEBI, which is a government body, and it has its own regulations. So there are certain rules and regulations where the fund managers of those funds can take risk up to a certain extent. They cannot exceed that risk.